Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Wednesday, June 15th, 2022. Dr. Zakiya Akerele is an Atlanta-based educator, author, and speaker who found an early passion in academic pursuits, hoping to use them to improve herself and the world around her. We're going to speak this morning with Dr. Akerele about her forthcoming book, Dump Your Degree: How to Repurpose Your Education, Control Your Career, and Gain Financial Freedom. First, let's bring on James Wright of the Washington Informer as we tackle a couple of news topics this morning. James, good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Always good to see you, James. James, this morning we start with former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. She's joining the Biden administration as a top White House aide. A White House official told NBC News yesterday that the hire will be formally announced today. Bottoms will fill a vacancy created by Cedric Richmond, who recently moved to a senior role at the Democratic National Committee after serving as director of the White House Office of Public Engagement. So Keisha Lance Bottoms, James, folks was wondering what happened to her, and here she is. She's resurfaced.
Yeah, no, and this is interesting. First of all, I think it's great that Cedric has moved over to the Democratic National Committee, over to the party because they definitely need him right now. Some of those folks have really lost perspective in terms of reaching out to the African American community, and Cedric can put them in line. This was always an interesting case in terms of Keisha Lance Bottoms. There was talk that she would get an ambassadorship, which I kind of thought was kind of maybe below her. Nothing wrong with that, though. But now that she's going over to the White House, I think she'll play a key role in terms of the urban agenda in the Biden administration. We know Joe Biden is pro-urban, but we need to make sure that the people around him understand that cities matter and people who live in cities matter. And Keisha Lance Bottoms, I think if she does a good job with this, can maybe get a cabinet position, which is what a lot of us thought that she would end up with a cabinet position at some level anyway. But maybe this is a sign that she's on her way.
Yeah, could be, James. Also in the news this morning, Sean Jay-Z Carter and Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey announced this month that they would fund the Bitcoin Academy for residents of the Marcy houses where the billionaire rap icon was raised. Jay-Z tweeted that academy starting in Marcy, a place that taught me so much, is hopefully the first of many. The simple goal is to provide people tools to build independence for themselves and then the community around them. The academy, run through the Sean Carter Foundation, will provide free courses online and in person exclusively to residents of the Marcy houses bordered by Flushing, Nostrand, and Park Avenues and Stuyvesant Heights. Classes will be taught by Lamar Wilson, a Black Bitcoin billionaire, and Naja Roberts, the founder of Crypto Blockchain Plug, and they will run through from June 22nd through September 7th. And dinner will be served that evening, in-person classes, and those who participate will receive MiFi devices and a 1-year limited data plan, plus smartphones if needed, according to Jay-Z. The vision for Bitcoin is that it doesn't have barriers, he says, but lack of access to financial education is a barrier. It's still hard to use for everyday necessities. Plus, people need devices and data plans. Residents may keep the devices, James. There will also be a crypto kids camp for Marcy kids and teens aged 5 to 17. Education is power, and the instructors of the academy said. They said the program aims to provide education and empower the community with knowledge. So good for Jay-Z, not never forgetting where he came from. The Marcy houses is where he grew up, James. And this is something he's trying to do to empower young African Americans in the Marcy houses there in New York.
Well, I'm going to make a reference to Jay-Z later on in the conversation on another topic. But this is an example of a wealthy Black person reaching back into the community and partnering with white corporate America in order to uplift African Americans. This is what is needed in order to bring our people back into the economic forefront of our country. It can be done. And you have to praise LeBron James in terms of what he's doing in Akron, Ohio, in his locale. And it's not just the athletes and the entertainers who are doing that. Publishers of newspapers are doing this. In Los Angeles, you have the Los Angeles Sentinel, the owner there, who's done some things. And of course, we know about the Philadelphia Tribune and Bob Bogle and what he's done in terms of economic development. But the point is that you have Blacks of means who are not just sitting on their millions and billions. They're actually reaching out to uplift our people. Oprah Winfrey has given a lot of money to Black institutions. So has Robert W. Smith, the billionaire who missed out on buying the Denver Broncos, but we did get a sister there, Melody Hobson, in terms of us being a co-owner with the Waltons. But the point is that we are now, our Black business people are partnering with, well, in this case, whites, in order to uplift our people. And that is a positive economic development.
Well, and in this case too, we have to say a couple of things about this. You say partnering with white folks, but in this case, Jay-Z went to the source, right? This guy is an expert in the Bitcoin field, and he wants to bring the best to the Marcy projects in Brooklyn. So I think it's a great move on his part. Again, it shows, as you said, he continues to give back.
Yes.
James, this morning we have the privilege of talking with Dr. Say her name, James.
Zakiya Akerele.
Yes, Zakiya Akerele.
Zakiya Akerele.
Who will talk to us this morning about Dump Your Degree, which is a timely and invaluable resource for anyone seeking guidance on navigating higher education, developing their career, and having financial security. Let's say good morning to Dr. Akerele.
Good morning. Good morning.
Dr. Akerele, as we butcher your name in 17 different ways.
I'm used to it.
First and foremost, let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about the book, because the first thing that jumps out, we've been talking, we talk a lot about education, we talk a lot about the importance of education, but here, the first words from your book is dump your degree. What's going on?
So I know I get that question often, being that I'm a professor, have a PhD, have 4 degrees myself. Why would I name a book Dump Your Degree? It's more figuratively, like I don't want people to focus solely on their degree. And I see that I did that in my past. When I finished my PhD, it was during a recession. It was hard for me to get stable work. And I was solely focusing on my academic background instead of looking at the sum total of all the things that I had to offer. And so that was what led me to write Dump Your Degree. It's don't focus only on your academic background.
Yeah. Well, but you talked too about developing your career and having financial security, and teaching financial teaching finances is important in our community. So what do we learn from here as far as finances, and who is the book tailored to most?
Yeah, it's mostly targeted towards current college students, older high school mates, juniors and seniors, but primarily to current college students and recent graduates, early career professionals, to give them a jump ahead on what to prepare themselves for in higher education and after they finish their education as well.
And so you've been writing this book. How long did it take you to write it? And what was the impetus behind it? Well, you had to have gotten something happened here. What happened, Doc?
It took me, at first, it was something completely different. And then I started to look at what I was writing. So I don't know if I could say maybe a year in total, but I took some pauses and breaks and came back to it. So I would say maybe a year or so. But it basically is advice that I wish that I received before I entered higher education. So it was, me wanting to tell the generation behind me, be careful of what you do and the types of degrees you get. Make sure that you get a degree that has the best return on the investment. Try to avoid student loan debt if you can, and if you cannot, how do you pay those things back? Because I didn't get that advice when I was pursuing higher education. So that's part of it. And the other part of it was, after, as I mentioned earlier, after I finished my doctorate, I faced so many challenges in the job market, and I thought it was something personal regarding my own, background. But I realized that I was not alone. There were so many people, my colleagues and peers, who also face challenges in the job market. And so I wanted to give advice on how do you navigate, not just putting in applications and hoping for the best, but how do you actually network, build professional relationships? How do you stand out in the job market and make yourself uh, more competitive? And also, if you don't want to enter the job market in the traditional way, how do you create your own opportunities for work and for a career in the future?
Yeah. And you said something interesting about the degrees and how important it is, especially today, to choose the right degree, to choose the right major, because today the way things have been going, students are going into debt and they're not getting that job that they, spent 4 or 8 years or more in school trying to obtain.
Yeah, it's very important to choose the right major. Primarily for African Americans, we tend to get degrees in what they consider soft degree areas, which may not have the best return on the investment. And the thing is, you're paying the same amount for that degree as you would if you had gotten a degree in something that would give you a better return on investment. So choose wisely. A lot of us, are told, oh, higher education, and that's it. Oh, you're in college, great job. But what are you studying, and what are your plans for the future in that field? Have you done the research to see what types of jobs are available, and would it match up to the amount you've invested in the degree in the first place?
Yeah, let's bring James right into the conversation. I know James had some thoughts and comments on the book. James.
Yeah, first of all, I want to commend you, Doctor, for writing this book, because this is something a lot of African Americans, particularly highly educated African Americans, and education is good, are missing the point. Earlier we talked about Jay-Z. Jay-Z doesn't have a college degree. Ebony and Jet publisher John Johnson didn't have a college degree. A.G. Gaston from nearby you in Birmingham, when he set up his empire in Birmingham, he didn't have a college degree. Neither did Michael Dell or Bill Gates. So the point is could you just talk about why we as a people tend to overemphasize these academic degrees, and then it turns out we end up broke? And I would like to mention that Madam C.J. Walker didn't have a college degree either. Now, and Oprah finished Tennessee State later on in her life. So could you talk about how we as African Americans tend to overemphasize academic degrees when it comes to entrepreneurship and in the workplace?
Yes, I actually have a chapter in my book called "Start Before You Finish," and in the opening of that, I mentioned so many corporations, businesses, tech companies, their founders didn't have a degree, and if they started, half of my list dropped out. And not to say that I'm encouraging people to just drop out, but I talk about the value in entrepreneurship and how the college degree doesn't necessarily equal success. And there are other ways to be successful. And I think that African Americans, we tend had a tendency to go towards higher education, is because it gave us a higher level of, within social status. And it historically, it did have some, it created opportunities for us socioeconomically. But as we see things shifting over the years, where there's an overabundance of individuals, whether from the African American community or out, the larger population, so many people have degrees, so it's devaluing many of them. Where it once was, oh, you have a degree, you set yourself apart from others. Now it's most people are getting them, many people are getting them. So now the value of degrees is diminishing. And also within our community, we have the tendency to believe that once you get the degree, you'll get a job and then you'll have career stability. So you'll find a job that gives you the benefits, the health benefits, the insurance, the retirement. So
Yeah.
we've had that, we've been told that for so many years, but now we see that that's not necessarily the case. The stability, the job security is definitely an illusion because at any time you can be let go.
That's right.
And Doctor, you mentioned too how freelancing offers better job security for many graduates. Talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So I know that when people graduated, again, I was in this same position thinking, okay, I graduated. Where's the job? Let me find a job. Not thinking about the skills, the talents that I had, and how I could create my own opportunities through freelancing, through consulting. Um, I don't think many people look at they themselves can create their own opportunities. They're looking for someone else to give that to them. And in this day and age, when you have platforms that are very friendly towards freelancers where people actually go and look and prefer to hire freelancers, I would encourage college graduates, early career professionals, even people who are seasoned career professionals to develop themselves in the freelancing industry because they could be earning a substantial income. I've met with many people who have actually made more money freelancing than they did
Mhm.
at their 9 to 5.
Mm.
Mhm.
Well, and you touched on this a little earlier too, but expand on this a little bit. How parents can help their children prepare for college and a career.
Well, I encourage parents to be open minded. I have encountered parents who, they themselves might have gone to college and they might not have. And all they think is this is the ticket. This is like college is a golden ticket. A degree is a golden ticket. And it's not. I've had students who were in college who were talented in other areas and were already creating their opportunities. And their parents were still nervous about, oh no, they need to just focus on what they're getting their degree. And I'm like, they're already making money. So parents being more open to their child and understanding what their plan of action is. Actually, recognizing that as a parent, they may not have the best information available to give to their student, their child. So how can they connect them to a mentor that may have better knowledge and be able to guide them in a better direction when it comes to their degree or in their career in general, because not college is not for everybody. And even if it is, it can be supplemented by another career direction, maybe actually getting a trade or other certifications that will help them. So parents should just be open and help them, guide them the best way they can.
Yeah, and so what do you do when you might have a child who's just not motivated? What do you do in that situation?
We'll see why they're not motivated. There may be a case where something they're passionate about something else. They're talented. I had a cousin who just, every all of us, he was the baby cousin kind of, and he didn't want to go in the direction that his older siblings, myself, went into. And he wanted to be an artist, and that was his talent. So it might have looked like he was not motivated. His college was paid for, and he still was just like, I'm not interested. So not people sometimes people just aren't motivated to do what others think they should be doing. It's not that they're not motivated. And if they are just not motivated in general, work with them in exploring what things that will grab their attention to motivate them.
Yeah, and the newly minted Dr. Nicole McDaniel says allowing young people to remain under their parents' insurance until 26 via Obamacare helps them to explore entrepreneurship after high school or college. And we are seeing a whole lot of that, right? Entrepreneurship among the younger generation, right?
I love it. I love what Gen Z is doing. I myself am considered an older millennial. It's even in my age group, a lot more emphasis is being placed on business ownership and entrepreneurship, and I think that that is the way to go. A lot of times we have these negative assumptions about, oh, over half of businesses fail within. Da, da, da. We hear all of these things, but what about people getting laid off? You see, now we have a lot of people getting hired, and then these companies are rescinding offers. So there's risk involved in any and everything. At any time, a job can say, bye bye, we don't need you anymore. So then where's the security? So I'm glad that the conversation is being had about how entrepreneurship is a valuable option as far as either in lieu of going to college or in conjunction with the degree.
Yeah, and Daniela Pierre says, good point shared. And Daniela is asking, did the value of degrees begin to diminish as more African Americans acquired higher education, or has that always been the case?
I think it's beginning to diminish. And it's not just, again, as I stated before, it's not just because we're getting it, but that is a component. It's because there is an overabundance. And with the overabundance of degrees, the diminishing of the value, you have the credential inflation and everything like that. So it's making it where some now jobs that once didn't even require a degree are requiring a degree, and the pay is still the same. You know, the requirements for the work is the same. There's nothing shifting, but now you have to invest more money via a degree to get a job. You know, so the value is definitely shifting.
All right, James.
Yeah, I'm curious, Dr. A. In terms of when I got my business degree in the 1980s, I briefly looked at MBA programs.
Mhm.
And at that time, the MBA programs focused on hardcore subjects like accounting, finance, banking, marketing, that sort of thing. They didn't focus on entrepreneurship. Now, they had classes like how to open a business, but they didn't have anything up on in terms of entrepreneurship. Why should our business schools focus on entrepreneurship?
That's the way forward. I know that there are more HBCU business schools that are doing so, but again, I don't have a background in business school, but I have taught several of my mentees did get business degrees,
Mhm.
and what they have told me is that the business schools are teaching them how to go work for other companies. They're not teaching them how to develop their own businesses. But I do see a shift happening, and I'm happy that that is the case. But entrepreneurship is ownership at another level. So I encourage many of us to go that route, and I hope to see that more of our schools actually prepare students to be entrepreneurs.
Good point.
Yeah, I want to say good morning to Dr. David Childs of the University of Northern Kentucky. He writes in great information, especially the conversation about degree inflation, another term that I had not heard until this morning.
Oh yeah,
So
it's a very real thing.
it's very real, huh?
Yeah.
And you talk about too, Dr. Akerele, about and the who you know is as important as what you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Uh, Explain that some more too, because you look at folks and you kind of stated this earlier, like when they get a degree, they feel like, okay, now I should have a solid career,
Mhm.
but it's more than that. It's who you
Yes.
know as well.
Yeah, and that's how I mean. You people might want to call it nepotism or whatever, but that's just how the world works.
Right.
It's about who you know and who can open those doors for you. And a lot of times, I've had students, particularly when I taught at HBCUs, say that they weren't really they knew how to network, but as far as relationship building on a professional level. Learning how to do that and create those communities of people who could help them at a different level. They weren't taught that.
Yeah.
And who you know is so important. And that's really how the door opened for me. I mentioned that in my book. You know, when I was struggling for work, I didn't know what I was going to do. Just applying for jobs was just not cutting it. And it was because of who I knew that knew I needed something. You know, they gave me a call and said, hey, you know, so and so is, you know, and you all are connected through the same school and opening those doors. So it's about knowing people that can open that door. And also, you don't even have to have that connection to them on a whether it's through your alumni or through your fraternity or sorority. You can create these relationships on LinkedIn, right? You can
Mhm.
find what people are doing and how you can add value to them and start developing a connection with complete strangers that can open doors for you. So that's way more important in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I want to raise a couple of points that our producer Greer has raised. She says that all of this will be hard for the the old school African Americans, right, to shake because higher education has been such a major part of our aspiration.
Mhm.
So how do you how do you reconcile that?
Well, they just have to look at the times, and shift with the times. We're seeing so many young people who are taking their careers in their own hands. I woke up this morning on LinkedIn and I saw a post from a Gen Z who said, I dropped out of school and he's doing amazing with his own company right now.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, a few older people are like, oh, well, but it worked for him. And it was because he felt passion in the field. He studied it and he said, and one of the things he mentioned on his post was not once when he was developing his company did anybody ask him about a degree. It was, do you know this? Are you meeting the requirements, and it wasn't about the degree. And that's the way forward. I'm not saying people shouldn't get degrees, right? I want my doctor, my lawyer to have a degree. I mean, they have to have one, but it's just not for everybody. If you're getting a degree in something that just won't give you that return, if you're going to end up with a degree in something like within the liberal arts, and again, I have a background in humanities and things like that, but if you're going to get a degree in a soft area and end up working a job you could have gotten without a degree, what was the purpose of it?
There you go.
So you have to look at it holistically.
And she's, and Greer also raised the point that being a hard worker was the American way. And she said she's told her kids that you don't have to work hard, you have to work smart.
That's it. That's exactly it.
James?
I definitely agree with that. One of the problems that I see when I talk to young entrepreneurs is the fact that, and I'm not talking about the ones that you talk about who are very successful, they have this CEO mentality. And what I mean is that they want to be the CEO of their company, which is a great idea, but they lack the tools in order to get to that level to be able to function effectively. My question, doctor, is that I agree with you. You don't need a college degree. But should they encourage themselves to become adult education learners and lifelong learners in their field?
Definitely. I'm a proponent of lifelong learning. I have 4 degrees and my bookcases are massive. Every day I'm reading. You never stop learning. And so you don't have to get a degree to be an entrepreneur. As you mentioned earlier in the show, that whole list you gave didn't have a degree, or with the exception of Oprah getting hers later. But you learn. And then here's the great thing about where we are now is you can learn any and everywhere. There are so many avenues that you can find on the internet that can teach you. There are certification programs that are available that can teach you. You don't have to go get a degree. And truth be told, even if those people who are passionate about entrepreneurship went and got a degree, the degree might not serve them anyway. It'd just be a piece of paper because they still end up being entrepreneurs. So they need the training in entrepreneurship. And that is available all over the internet, anywhere, small business administrations. There are so many ways that you can access knowledge about entrepreneurship. So they definitely should do that.
Stacey, I have a funny story to tell real quick.
It has to be quick, James.
One of my heroes is Katharine Graham. She was the chairman and the publisher of the Washington Post. And, she had all this tremendous success. But a few years before she died, she told the journalist Gordon Peterson, she said one of the greatest regrets that she had is that she never had the chance to get an MBA at Harvard in terms of learning about business. And Gordon Peterson cocked his head and looked at her and said, well, what do you need it for?
Right.
And so it really squares with what you're saying.
Right.
Well, David Youngblood says hard work, no. Smart work, yes. He says slaves worked hard. Remember that. And Morgan Holland also writes in that many Black graduates are creating their network from scratch versus being born or tapped into an existing network. Creating and nurturing a network is more effort than nurturing a network that you've been in. And also, Dr. David Childs says that you don't need a degree, needs clarification. I think the guests have done that to a certain extent. I don't think, and I'll let Dr. Akerele speak to that. I don't think she's advocating not getting a degree.
No. I'm saying don't make that the sole focus of your career development.
Yeah. Yes. And the book is called Dump Your Degree, How to Repurpose Your Education, Control Your Career, and Gain Financial Freedom. Where can folks get the book?
It is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, Walmart. Most online retailers have this book, so be sure to get a copy.
Be sure to get a copy.
Yes.
Thanks so much. And
Thank you.
don't forget to go to nnpa-events.com to register and join us in New Orleans next week for the 195th anniversary celebration conference of the Black Press of America. One of the many exciting and informative discussions will include in our own voice, National Black Women's Reproductive Justice Agenda with Racine Tucker Hamilton. And Dr. David Childs is also, speaking of Dr. David Childs, who's watching this morning, he'll also lead a panel at the conference as well. And join us also this coming Friday for a very special edition of Let It Be Known with the Grammy-nominated superstar grandson of the icon Bob Marley, the one and only, the amazing Skip Marley, joins us live on Let It Be Known Friday. So check us out then, but also check us out tomorrow because that's when we'll see you again. Thanks for watching.